Git branching and merging. Why do we do it and how? So here's you, and you've got yourself a Git repository. You're minding your own business, working on your project, and then you realize it's more complicated than you thought. Pro tip, projects are always more complicated than you thought. So you get someone to collaborate with. Maybe it's an entirely different person. Maybe it's you in a different hat. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that the project is big and that you can't hold it all in your head at once. You're going to have to work in smaller pieces that a person can hold in their head all at once. So you split the project up. Suppose you're a coder and you're working with a graphic designer. Coding is messy. Sometimes it breaks things. You need to be able to work on your part of the project in isolation without breaking the things that the graphic designer is trying to style. And graphic design gets messy too. You want to be able to try a gazillion different variations on the style without distracting the programmer. And you don't want them messaging you and interrupting your flow saying, hey, I don't like this new style, when you were just testing a variation on a color scheme and never had any intention of keeping that as the final style. You don't want anyone looking at your style until you've settled on something that you think is good enough to get feedback on. If you're just one person wearing different hats, all this is still true. You want to switch to graphic design when you've scheduled to work but have an ugly bug and are burnt out on coding, so you just want to put coding on the back burner and try a different tactic later. You sure don't want broken code hanging over your head while you try a gazillion fonts. You want to work with style on a variation of the project that still works. You might also have bosses and clients or potential investors. You don't want to give them something and say, don't click here because it breaks. Don't worry, we're fixing that. You want to put your best foot forward. You want to show them the last stable version. But you don't want to stop from being able to work in the meantime. Your entire professional life can't be on hold for a week or two because you scheduled a meeting. This is what Git branches are for. Say this is your repository. You usually start with a mostly empty initial commit. It's a good idea to never work in your main branch, so make a development branch right away. Let me show you how to do that. Let's assume you've already changed your directory to be inside your Git repository. I can type git status to see what's going on. It tells me that I'm on the main branch and that I'm up to date. If I just want to know about branches, I can also type git branch. It's going to tell me that I'm just in the main branch. If I want to create a new branch, I type git checkout, and then I use -b, which tells it I'm making a new one, and then I give it a branch name. I'm going to make one for code. Now if I type git branch, you'll see that there's a little asterisk by the code branch, and I'm not in the main branch anymore. I like to make my branch names short but specific. I need to know exactly what they are, but I'm going to be typing them a lot. So let's say I have a coder and I have a graphic designer. I'm going to have one branch for code, but I'll make a completely different branch for styling. So I will just make another one, starting at the same place. And I'm just going to do git checkout -b, and I'm just going to call it style. And now when I look at my list of branches, I can see there's 3 of them. I'm in style. I'm going to go back to code. I've already made the branch, so I just need to type git checkout code. Now you can see that I'm in the code branch. So I can switch back and forth between the different branches pretty easily just using checkout. And git branch tells me where I'm at. I'm going to edit away and make a couple of commits in each branch so I can show you how branching works. You only need one development branch if you're working alone. If you're working in a group, try to give everyone their own branch. You probably keep the coding branch separate from the graphics branch, even if you are working alone. And if you have people working on multiple coding projects, give them a name more specific than code, and name the project branches based on what people are doing. If you're lucky enough to be working with testers, you might make a branch for testers. Sometimes there's an alpha branch for in-house testers and a beta branch for consenting members of the general public. Okay, so what I've done is in my code branch, I'm just going to use ls to list my files and show you, I've added an index.html. I chose to do HTML because it's really obvious that the 2 branches are separate, and there is no style sheet. There's just an HTML file. Let me show you what this looks like in the browser. This is what it looks like when you put plain HTML into a browser with no style sheet. Now let me check out the style branch, and I'm going to list the files there. I don't see the index.html. I do see a style sheet. If I go to the browser and hit reload, it's going to tell me the file is not found because the HTML hasn't been shared with the stylist yet. So let me show you merging. I'm going to go to a test branch. I'm going to use -b because it's a new branch, and I'm going to merge everything into this branch. First, I'll add the code. It's going to pop me into the VI editor with the generic message that says merge branch code into test. I'm just going to hit escape, then colon, then W and Q to write and quit, because I'm just going to keep the default message. I'm not doing anything fancy. And I'm going to do the same thing with style. It's already up to date because I was in the style branch when I made this branch. So now when I look, I have both the index and the style sheet inside this test. If I go back to style, you'll see the HTML is gone. If I go back to code, you'll see the CSS is gone. But when I go to the test branch, you'll see that I have them all. There's the HTML, there's the style. If I go to my browser, and here we have the reloaded page with the style sheet. You often use the main branch as a release branch that you know is stable. So now that you have a release, how do you get the working code back to the other branches? You start with release and merge to the development branches. So I'm in my main branch right now. So to change to my code branch, I'm going to type git checkout code. To merge the stuff from the main branch in, I just type git merge main. Then I do the same thing with style, git checkout style. And then I merge from the main, git merge main. And now you can see when I reload that they both have the HTML and the style. Developers can work independently, or they can merge things when they add something that would help another developer. For example, graphics can type git merge to pull over a feature from the coding branch and start styling it. When all the developers feel ready, we merge everything back into the test. Then if it's stable, it gets merged back into the release branch. Then you lather, rinse, repeat for as long as the project is happening. And that's all you need to know to get started with branching and merging.